Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. In this video we're going to cover the installation and the maintenance of the source code for the web page archiving and content analysis tools. I'm going to walk you through how to download the code, how to install the dependencies. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the structure of the files, and then a couple of pointers of what the code is doing and how to keep working on it. So let's get started. First of all, the first thing you want to do is head over to the GitHub so we can download it. I have the page here, and the first thing you want to do is clone the entire repository. For this, you will need to have Git installed, and then what I'm going to go ahead and do is open up my terminal, and then I'm going to do git clone. And then I'm going to clone the entire thing here. And I'm just going to, instead of using this long name, I'm just going to name it lot. And what this does is will fetch the entire contents of the project into this web directory. Once that's done, I can check it out. I can see go into my web directory here. And I have a couple of things here. This comes from the senior project structure provided by Dr. Sajati, but the part that we are interested in is the code directory. And then if I go into code here and I list the files, I can see a couple of directories here. I have analysis, CLI, README, reference work, research, and requirements. In order to start working, there's a couple of things that you're going to need to install and have installed as dependencies, as we can see in the readme in here. First will be wget. This comes installed with Linux distros and Mac OS. Here I'm using Mac OS. We also tested this in Linux distributions, but it hasn't been tested on Windows. Right now, that's one of the dependencies, a Linux distribution. One thing that you need to have installed is Node.js. Node.js is used to build the desktop application. The desktop application is built on top of the Electron.js framework, which is a framework that allows students to build desktop applications that are cross-platform using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And we'll walk through some of that code in a second. And the other thing that you will need to install is Python. We're using version 2.7. Version 3.any will not work because some of the print statements are not compatible, but in theory it could be ported over, and it's probably wise to do so later on. But Python is used for the command line interface, which gets interacted by the application. So that the Python scripts, they do a lot of the content extraction, the downloading, and a lot of the heavy lifting for these tools. So if I go ahead, I can see, if I go into the directory here, the first thing I want to run, as we can see here, is I want to install the Python dependencies, and I can do that by running pip install requirements. Now I have already done that, but if I do that here, we'll see a lot of these are already done. So next thing we want to do is install the dependencies for the desktop application, and these are inside, like the desktop application right now lives inside the WhatApp directory. So if I cd into WhatApp, and let me clear this, and then if I show what's going on in here, as you can see, I have a couple of things going on here. I have some assets, and I can see what's in there. It's just some icons, some styles. I have this download HTML, which will walk through what it is, download JS, index, main, etc., etc. And then we have package.json, which lists the requirements that we're going to need to install. In order to install the requirements, we simply run npm install, and this will go ahead and look at all the dependencies that we need that are listed in package.json and install all of them. Once this is done, you should see a node modules directory, which is where all those libraries are being downloaded to. Once this is done, we are almost ready to run the application. What we have to do next is run either npm run dist or npm run start in order to build the application. Running npm run dist will build an executable depending on the platform, and running npm run start will run the application in development mode, which is what we're going to do. And so we're here under code, cd what app, and here I can go ahead and say npm run start, and as you can see, it starts the Electron builder, and we have the application running. Now I also want to take a look at the code so we can walk through and see what's going on and how that's running. So I'm going to open this entire directory and my editor. I use Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor you like. But we can see the entire structure here, and I'm going to start going through it. So let's walk through the WAT application right now, which is this application right now, and we'll see how this is structured. We want to see what's rendering this this view. This is the index page. And as you can see, we have these. This is HTML here. We have the big buttons and the settings here, and we have a couple of files that we're requiring. We have the renderer, and we have this viewer dialog. Now, the way Electron works is you can read more on their website, but essentially they have two processes running. One for the view, the render process, which is the thing that renders what we see on the screen, and a background process, the main process, which is what runs anything that can interact with the operating system and with the file system. And we use that. You can see the main system, the main thing here. This is the process that interacts with our CLI and runs all our Python scripts. So as we can walk through a couple of things here to see what's going on. But one of the things that a simple feature that we can look at is when we have the open WAT. So this is triggered once if we click a WAT file. It calls this and maximizes the window, and then it calls this open WAT v2. And what this does is it runs through a couple of things. First, it unzips the WAT file. It determines what the main HTML file is, and then it renders it on the preferred viewer. And then we'll walk through what this WAT file looks like, and what that is, and how it can be extended. And then we'll walk through the CLI right now to see what's going on. So I can go ahead and check it out here. If I go in here and I go into CLI, I have a couple of files that I downloaded earlier. So the outdoor, and I can open this and check out my file system here. So I have a couple of WAT files here. These are for some articles I downloaded earlier. And a WAT file, in essence, is actually just a zip file with a custom file extension and some special structure inside. So we can actually view the contents by doing zip. If I change the name to zip, yes, I want to use zip. And now I can unzip the contents and see what's inside of it. As you can see, we have a couple of things here. We have this WAT JSON file, which essentially has a little bit of, let me format this. It has the URL, and it also details the version of the WAT file that we're on. This is file version 2, because the structure changed from what we initially had done. This could be useful for making sure that we open the right files in case our structure changes. We also have the name of the index file, which is referring to the contents of files, and files has the contents for the entire site. And as we can see here, this name matches exactly that, and we know this is the main file that we usually would like to open with Electron or with the browser. We also have this extraction directory here, and this houses the data that gets extracted from the CLI by the extraction scripts. as we can see here, we have a couple of things. We detail these on the user guide a lot more. But we have basic content that we extract from the page, as well as the main content. And we can see where that comes from as we walk through the CLI. So let me walk through some of the CLI code so we can see what's going on here. The CLI starts out here over what.py, and what this does is it has a little wrapper that we can interact with the command line. So if I were to go here and do python what.py, we'll see that we have a nice little user prompt where we have different options. Let's say we want to do python what.py with a help flag, this will show us additional help, and we can see that this is all controlled through this file here. And passing these flags will build up a dictionary that then we use to run our main program. So after this, the main program that happens is you can see it's imported here from download URL. And when we see it down output wrapper, we can see download URL, takes the URL and the destination, and some of the other flags that get passed from the command line. So I can go ahead into download, and we can see there's a lot more going on here, where we do a lot of cleaning up of the path, the domain name, downloading a file into a directory. We see we can make a WAV file, which essentially zips the contents, as we saw before, that the WAV file is simply a zip file. And then one of the other things we do here as we make the WAV file is we have our content extractor from that gets run on the files as well. And then the main file that gets called here is this metadata extractor here. So this file takes care of getting a lot of that metadata that we saw here in this file, meta.json, using a lot of different heuristics from the meta tags in an HTML page. And then this also relies on the other file, which is the content extractor, which lives right here. And this one takes care of extracting the contents of the main body of the article. And this is using a content scoring approach, heavily inspired from this old code made to run in the browser, and that was modified and retrofitted to use Beautiful Soup and be able to run without a browser with Python here. And for reference, anyone can see this code and walk through it, download and walk through it, which is essentially a bunch of JavaScript files. Most of the interesting parts are replicated in here. But in order to improve the content scoring algorithm, we basically add more heuristics in this section, and these are very easy to read through. We also have some tests, unit tests for these files. There's a test for the content extractor, and there's also a test for the metadata. And these are just simple Python unit tests that can be run. These are like the main overview of the details, and from here, adding new features would be dependent on what we want. If we need to add a new feature to the what app, that would happen under the what app directory. We have the main.js file, which opens the different files, and then we have a couple of different views. We have the index view, and if I open that again, we also have the options tool, which is the other view here, the download HTML. And here we can see a lot of the same things go back, which is this button here. We have a couple of inputs, and all of this is, if we see at the end, taken care of by this download.js, which sets up a lot of the listeners and handlers for some of the events, like selecting a file or pressing the start button, which trigger events that call back to the main process. Adding a feature to the CLI would start somewhere in the CLI, and most likely under what, or the download.py file, which is the main file. And then improving the content extraction would go under anything under analysis. Any other thing would be should be relatively simple to run and to find through the code, and then it should be detailed in this README file as well. Thank you so much. Goodbye.